That was intense.
I'm going to jump in on something else. Okay, you comment on. I mean, you kind of have an issue of blacks not using, standard English. You call it substandard English, and I'm
Yes.
thinking, what is your issue with that?
Okay, that's really fair.
Yeah,
And I do have an issue with it.
yeah,
But as you pointed out the other day, if some guy from West Virginia, I don't want to insult West Virginians, but if some hillbilly came up and was talking like this, how y'all doing? I would have a similar response.
yeah, sure.
So it isn't just a black thing, but I will say this. Every culture that's come to this country, Jews, Italians, Catholics, Irish, Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, over a generation or two have adopted the values of this country. They spoke the language. They adopted the values of hard work and honesty and moving yourself up to support your family. And there's a slew of other things that are part of the American culture, the American fabric. And because of the unique history, the blacks and Native Americans, who are the two most oppressed people in this country's history, have not. Native people struggle mightily. And I'm from Arizona. I was raised with Navajo, Apache, and Hopi.
Sure.
And I've been on reservations, and I've seen the quality of life there. And I understand that. They were here first. We committed genocide.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what white people couldn't do, alcohol has now done over the last several generations. It has diminished their society hugely. But the black culture is one of the few that has not adopted completely the language and cultural values of this nation. And so people look at that askance, and they say, why? I don't trust that. You live in this country for generations, even though your great-great-great-great-granddaddy was a slave. It's time to step up. And they don't trust it. And the issue I have is that there are certain...
But yet, they enjoy rap music. Where do you think that came from?
Yeah, I don't enjoy rap music. But I
Well,
get it,
maybe
yeah.
you don't,
Yeah.
but you're terrible. I'm not going to say. Maybe you don't, but a lot of whites do. And that evolved out of substandard use of English, slang, whatever. And it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's empowered a lot of blacks.
No, I
So
get it.
all I'm saying is that, blacks take English, and they play with it. They get creative with it. That's where do you think jazz came from?
Absolutely.
They took standard music and, what you call the standard sort of way of playing music and got creative with it, created a whole new art form.
And added enormous value.
So, when you have an issue with somebody varying from the standard, I sort of like, again, that's your white privilege speaking.
And it may be, but I want to say this about that. Because remember, I coach
Sure.
executives, I coach people.
Yeah, and I've done that too.
Yeah, of course, to be effective. If you show up for an interview in flip-flops and shorts and a T-shirt,
Right.
you're probably not getting that job.
Right.
You want to go to a job interview, you put your nicest clothes on, and you comport yourself in a way that's going to give them comfort that,
Sure.
that you're going to do a good job on behalf of that company.
Right.
So, if you want to be a rapper, you don't have to speak standard English. But if you want to work at Merrill Lynch or American Express or General Electric or any of the major companies, you've got to assume.
But you're not going to get that job unless you got a college degree anyway, for the most part. At least the
you
ones
got a
you're
point.
talking about.
And what's interesting is that the major companies, the Fortune 500, if you are a qualified black candidate, meaning you have a college degree and you speak, the opportunities are huge for you, especially to get in. But that's what I'm saying, though. If you want to elevate yourself in a society, education is important, and speaking Let me take it off me. Years ago, I had the privilege of addressing 37 black PhD candidates in Jackson, Mississippi. And the black professor who was in charge of that department, as I was getting there, he was talking to me about, he says, if you can't speak English in a way that they will not know your ethnicity over the phone, you're going to have problems. This is him saying this to his, and I happen to agree with him.
I agree with him too.
All right.
If you speak the language of the situation that you're trying to address, and
Exactly.
if you're trying to get a job interview or you're talking over the phone to somebody that you got to show up for in a certain way, you speak in a way that they can appreciate.
Do you think Barack Obama would have been elected had he not been one of the most eloquent Americans in the history of our country?
Probably not.
Of course. So I think it's important. I think, again, I want to be very
But
careful.
Barack can get offline, and he can talk slang
Well, that's okay.
like anybody else.
But when he's
I
I get it.
Yeah,
And I'm
see
sure
what
he
saying?
does.
It's
sure
just being fluid and flexible. Now, I get that, maybe some blacks don't understand the significance of that, and it's probably because they haven't been trained or taught that, look, you gotta switch the way you show up depending on, who you're addressing. But it's funny when I have friends who have gone back to, say, North Carolina with me, or they see me around other blacks and we start talking. It's like they see a whole nother side of me. It's like a whole nother language that I'm using that they never seen before. Because I don't get a chance to typically express that side of myself unless I'm talking with my brothers and sisters.
And that's actually
so
perfect.
It's just fun. It's a place for that, and it's a place not to use that, but to be judged about it.
Well, if I meet a young black guy or gal and they talk about, I want to ask you something,
Yeah.
it's like fingernails on a chalkboard, and I don't say anything, of course. I'm very polite, but my question right now: how effective can they be? How much could they help in this endeavor we're looking to hire for? It affects me, and the black community needs to know that there's a very large segment of the greater, not just the white community, the greater community,
Right.
that would probably be put back by that. So knowing that's probably true, then they can make choices.
Yeah.
And the reason I have no problem with you going back to your old buddies back home and doing that is because you're highly educated and immaculate in your speech when you want to be, and that's the difference. It doesn't mean you have to be that way all the time. It just means when you have to, you've got to put it on.
And the interesting thing is, because we have such care for one another, as human beings, we can go at it with no holds barred because we know it's not going to challenge our friendship. So it's like we don't have to hold back with each other. Like I know one discussion we've had that kind of plugged me in with you has to do with reparations. You know that issue.
Yeah.
Because you're just saying, oh, I don't think blacks should consider reparations in this country. And I'm saying, oh, it's okay for Jews, but it's not okay for blacks. And what's that about? So, we got into some pretty heated discussion around that, and you tried to kind of justify it by, the history of Jews and all this. But, I just didn't think it was credible, frankly.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I believe my response was something like, there are still Jews alive today who were in the Holocaust, who were in concentration camps. There are no slaves alive today.
My great-great-grandparents were slaves.
Right, but they're not here today.
Well,
so I'm just saying is that when's the statute of limitations, or who are you going to pay? You're going to pay the great-great-great-grandchildren of the former slaves, or that's what I'm saying is that many of them in the white community would say that free public education, affirmative action are the reparations.
Yeah, but they're
offered.
trying to get rid of that. You see what I'm saying? Or
frustrating.
claim reverse discrimination. So, and what I'm saying is, and then of course the Native Americans. I mean, they're still living in this country, and their land was taken away. So all I'm saying is that these things should be considered with compassion, not just dismissed as, oh, we're not even going to consider that.
I think you have a good point.